A forest fire trapped a single mom and her baby, the Cowboy. Who saved them owned half the streak. The forest was quiet that morning. Too quiet for a woman who had lived long enough to sense when nature held its breath. Evelyn Carr, a young single mother with nothing left but her infant son and a fierce will to survive, walked the leaf-scattered path as sunlight dripped through, the tall pines like golden honey. She had come here many times, seeking a moment of peace from the weight of a life that had demanded far too much from her far too early. Yet today something felt wrong, an odd warmth in the air, a sharp smoky hint that curled through the wind. She held her baby boy closer, tightening the thin blanket around him, whispering to calm the unease rising in her chest. The sunlight flickered suddenly, dimming as if swallowed by something massive. When she lifted her eyes, she saw it, dark columns of smoke billowing from the west, rolling like a storm that had no mercy to offer. Fires weren't new to this part of Montana, but this one was different. It was fast, hungry, alive. Within minutes, the wind turned violent, feeding the flames until they roared high enough to set the sky ablaze. Evelyn turned back for the trail, but the fire moved faster than any human could. With her baby clutched to her chest, she ran, branches whipping her arms, her breath slicing her throat. Every sound drowned beneath the monstrous howl of burning forest. The heat behind her grew unbearable. Her legs trembled. Her mind screamed. She stumbled over a fallen branch, crashing to the forest floor with a cry of pain. Her ankle twisted badly, sending a shock of agony up her leg. She tried to push herself up, but her body betrayed her. Smoke thickened around her. Flames cracked like bones snapping. Her heart hammered wildly as she looked down at her baby, who whimpered softly. Confused by the heat, the chaos, the terror shaking his mother's arms, Evelyn lifted her head toward the sky, whispering a desperate plea. "Someone, please." But no one should have been near this forest. No one except the one man the world rarely saw, yet the whole state knew by name. Miles Hartwell, the reclusive cowboy who owned half the land in Montana, including this very stretch of wilderness, was riding his black stallion along his property line when he noticed the strange orange glow rising between the trees. Miles had lived most of his life in silence and distance, burying his heartbreak behind acres of land and miles of fence. He was a man carved by grief, shaped by tragedies he never spoke of. To him, solitude was safer, predictable. But when the wind shifted and he smelled the burning pine, he didn't hesitate. He kicked his horse hard, racing toward the danger while most would flee. His stallion thundered over the rugged terrain, hooves striking sparks as they tore through the shade of towering pines. Then he saw her, a woman lying on the forest floor, cradling a baby, her face streaked with ash and fear. Miles' heart jolted. Her outstretched arm trembled, reaching for him like he was the final thread between hope and death. In one swift motion, he leapt off the saddle, landing beside her. "Ma'am, can you stand?" he shouted over the roar of fire. "No," she gasped. "My ankle. I can't. My baby, please just take him." Tears shimmered in her smoke-irritated eyes as she lifted the infant toward him. But Miles shook his head sharply. "I'm not leaving either of you." He scooped the baby into one arm and helped Evelyn up with the other, pulling her close as he guided her onto the horse. She cried out when her injured ankle hit the stirrup, but Miles steadied her, his warm, calloused hands grounding her against panic. The flames surged closer, lighting the sky like a furnace door thrown open. The horse neighed anxiously, feeling the heat. Miles mounted behind her, one arm locking protectively around her waist, the other gripping the reins as he turned the horse toward the only narrow clearing not yet consumed by fire. "Hold on," he commanded, and the raw authority in his voice pushed through her fear. The horse bolted. Branches snapped. Embers rained around them. Evelyn shielded her baby with her body as Miles shielded them both with his. The world became a blur of smoke and sparks. For a second, Evelyn thought they wouldn't make it. The fire leaped across their path, forcing Miles to veer sharply. He leaned his body into hers, keeping her steady as the horse leaped over a fallen log, stumbling but regaining its stride. Miles' breath hitched. His arms tightened. His world slowed to one truth. He couldn't let them die. Not again. Not like the memories that haunted him. When they burst through the last wall of smoke into cleaner air, Evelyn sobbed into his chest, trembling with relief. They had outrun death, but barely. Miles didn't stop until they reached the riverbank. where the air was cooler and the sky clearer. Only then did he gently pull her into his arms, checking her injuries with surprising tenderness for a man known for his iron exterior. "You're safe," he murmured. "I've got you." For the first time since her life began to fall apart, Evelyn believed it, and neither of them knew it yet. But this was only the beginning of a story that would change both their worlds forever. The riverbank felt like a different world, untouched by the inferno consuming the forest behind them. The air tasted cooler, the sky opened wide, and the sound of water rushing over stones calmed the panic still beating in Evelyn's chest. But even as she breathed deeply, her body trembled with shock. Her ankle pulsed with sharp pain, and her arms ached from holding the baby so tightly. Miles Hartwell slid off the horse and gently helped her down, supporting her weight effortlessly. His strength was steady, grounded, something she hadn't felt from anyone in years. He laid his coat on the ground and gestured for her to sit. His stallion grazed nearby, steam rising off the animal's dark coat from the heat and strain of the escape. "Your ankle needs wrapping," Miles said, kneeling in front of her. His voice was low, rough around the edges, yet careful, like he was speaking to something fragile. She studied him through watery eyes, broad shoulders, sun-browned skin, ash smudged across his jaw, and eyes that carried storms from a past he didn't talk about. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You saved us." "Anyone would have," he replied quietly without looking up. But she saw something flicker across his face, guilt or perhaps memory. Whatever it was, it lingered long enough for her to wonder who he had once failed to save. He tore a strip from his shirt and wrapped her ankle with practiced skill, tightening it just enough to stabilize the swelling. Evelyn winced. "Sorry," he muttered. "It's okay," she whispered. "I've felt worse." He paused, lifting his gaze to hers. "That sounds like a story." She looked away. "Life hasn't been easy." Miles didn't push further. He simply nodded, stood, and scanned the burning horizon. The fire had grown monstrous, swallowing acres of land in minutes. Embers drifted like fireflies. "We'll need to get you out of here," he said. "The fire will cross the river eventually." She hugged her baby closer. "Where will we go?" "My ranch isn't far," he answered. "You'll be safe there." Evelyn's eyes widened. Everyone in the state knew the Hartwell Ranch. It wasn't just land, it was practically a kingdom. Miles Hartwell, the man who owned half the state, yet lived alone as if he owned nothing at all. Rumors surrounded him. Some said he lost his wife and unborn child in a tragic accident. Others claimed he pushed everyone away out of stubborn pride. But looking at him now, how he wrapped her ankle, how he shielded her from the flames, it didn't seem like pride at all. It seemed like pain, a deep unspoken pain. Miles helped her back onto the horse, mounting behind her again to support her weight. They rode along the river until smoke thinned and the world turned quiet. The landscape shifted from wild forest to open golden fields, and eventually to the vast stretch of the Hartwell Ranch. Fences ran for miles. Cattle grazed peacefully. Windmills turned lazily against the sky. As they approached the enormous wooden house at the center of the land, workers and ranch hands rushed toward them in alarm. "Boss, we saw the fire. What happened?" one man shouted. Miles jumped off the horse and caught Evelyn as she slipped. "Get Doc Turner," he ordered, his voice commanding, "steady. And bring water, blankets." Evelyn blinked, overwhelmed by the sudden flurry of movement. She hadn't been taken care of in years, not like this. She watched Miles gently lift her baby from her arms, holding the infant with a softness she wouldn't have expected from a hardened cowboy. He brushed ash from the baby's cheek, inspected his breathing, then handed him back carefully. "He's all right," he murmured. "Strong little guy." A tear slipped down Evelyn's cheek. "His name is Noah," she whispered. Miles's lips twitched, almost a smile. "Good name." Doc Turner arrived quickly, checking her ankle and confirming the sprain. "You'll need rest, miss?" "Evelyn Carr." The doctor nodded. "You're in good hands here." Miles approached, handing her a cup of water. "You can stay as long as you need." "No rush." Evelyn met his gaze, her heart tightening with gratitude. "I don't want to be a burden." "You're not," he said firmly. "Saving you." It felt right. His voice softened at the end, like he spoke not just to her, but to the ghosts he carried. Days passed. With every sunrise, Evelyn healed a little more. She learned that Miles was far more gentle than his reputation. He checked on Noah daily, fixed her meals, guided her through the ranch like she belonged there, and she began to see something in his eyes. Not loneliness, but the yearning to finally let someone in. One evening, as the sky turned gold, Miles stood beside her on the porch. "Evelyn," he said quietly, "I don't know why life put you in my path, but I'm glad it did." She smiled softly, her heart beating faster. "Maybe it's because you needed saving too." Miles froze. For a moment, his tough exterior cracked, revealing a man who had lived too long with pain he didn't deserve. "Maybe," he whispered. The wind carried the scent of smoke again, but this time, it wasn't fear she felt. It was the warmth of something new beginning between them. A spark that wasn't meant to burn but to heal. And as their eyes met beneath the setting sun, the story that started in fire was slowly turning into something powerful. Something neither of them expected, something worth staying alive for.